Hello, everyone. This is Mike from Dimensional Walking. And today, the title of our episode is UFOs, Aliens, and Balloons. But maybe not in that order. Okay? So, here we are. We're 3 weeks after the Chinese balloon showed up over North America. And then it was almost about a week before it was shot down off the South Carolina coast. And then shortly thereafter, next day or so after, we started getting, I think it was actually the day after, we started seeing other objects over North America. And the next 3 objects, I guess, we shot those down too. Okay? So that's a little summary of what went on. So anyways, the first balloon definitely was a Chinese balloon. We're not 100% sure, though, if it was a true surveillance balloon and they were trying to, get a spy balloon, I guess is what we should call it. We're not 100% sure of that yet. And I guess the reason is presently the wreckage is being held by the FBI. And they're investigating, and I'm sure there's other agencies involved, looking and seeing what they see and trying to determine if this was truly a spy balloon. And I guess we're just going to have to wait on that. So that leaves us with the last 3 objects that were shot down. So originally, shortly thereafter, the 3 of them were shot down, I had actually thought that there was a pretty high degree of chance that one or more of them was an UFO, a real UFO, an alien UFO, okay? And I did some shorts on it. I did some, videos, short videos on it, and that's what some of the conclusions I came from. And I had some reasonable reasons, I think. But now I'm saying probably 90% sure that isn't the case. And here's why. After the Chinese balloon was shot down, as you probably know, there was quite a bit of blowback from Congress and from the American public and how this whole incident was handled. Because a lot of people believe that we should have shot the balloon down earlier, maybe over in Montana. Because it's a wide open space, no human would probably have been hurt. Maybe antelope or some animal or something. I agree that would be sad, but at the same time, it wouldn't be a human or anything would be damaged really from the debris if it was shot down. So, and I tend to agree with that. I think, in fact, I originally think I said that they should, maybe shoot it down if they felt there was a possibility it was a spy balloon. But anyways, all things considered, they didn't, and I guess they thought it was a good idea not to, and I guess that's fine. They probably know more than we do about what's going on. So anyways, they shoot it down over, off the coast of South Carolina. So anyways, because of this whole blowback, the government tells NORAD to tweak their radar system. And basically what that means is they're going to change the parameters and they're going to change the algorithms so that they end up seeing smaller objects. And so as soon as that happens, pretty much they start shooting down. I don't know if that was a bit of a trigger happy moment for them, but 3 more objects are shot down. And when I say trigger happy, the reason I say that is, especially if you consider they had just adjusted the parameters. Maybe we could have waited a day just to kind of absorb what happened with this adjustment. I guess that would have been a hot idea. So what has happened to me is over the last several days, I have been in contact with hobby balloonists. Several of them have sent me comments and emails, etc., and basically have done a really good job in convincing me that they're the shapes and the sizes that are being described by the Air Force pilots and some of the government officials seem to match these balloons that they send up daily. And they're telling me maybe 200 to 300 of these type of balloons are sent up every day. And every day probably 200 to 300 of them fall back to Earth. They don't stay up forever. So they're going in other directions with the winds, and they're going up high, they're coming down low, so they're all over the place, okay? So, with that said, and of course, with that said, if that's the case, if they were these hobby balloons, which I think are quite possible now, I'm saying 90% certain of it. I have to tell you an interesting story. Not far from where I live is the airport here in Portland, PDX Airport, and they fly missions out of there from the Air Force. They have a small base close by, and they use their runways to launch their planes or take off their planes. And the day after, I guess the first balloon, the first new object, I should say, we won't call it a balloon yet, was over Montana. They sent out two F-15s or F-16s, I forget which it was, actually from here to go observe them. Not to shoot them down, but just observe them. So I guess this would be quite damning to the military, because you would think that Air Force pilots would be really great observers and would know the difference between a balloon and some type of object that would be dangerous to us, right? That would pose some type of danger, including a real UFO. I would think they would know that. So I don't know what really went on with this, because that particular balloon I was talking about, that particular object I was talking about, eventually was shot down by another jet over Lake Huron. Okay, so that's kind of the sequence on that one. Here's the other reason why, if these were hobby balloons, I doubt very much if we're ever going to find a piece of them. Because the reality is a missile hitting a small, and these things are basically smaller than a car. I mean, I think even one of the pilots had mentioned it was smaller than a car. And that would be a big hobby balloon, okay? Most of them are quite a bit smaller. And the interesting thing about them, they're cheap. I guess you can get one for about $12, which would be a pretty small one. And they would go all the way up to $150, right? So they're not that expensive if you want to get into the ballooning business, right? And they carry small payloads. It may only be a few pounds, but cameras being as light as they are, they can handle that type of, because most of them are helium, so they can handle a little bit of weight. So the other thing I was going to tell you, if you want to kind of look into these balloons, you can Google, let's see, it's Pico balloons. I think it's PICO balloons. And that kind of tells you the whole situation. Those are really the hobbyist balloons that I've been talking about. So anyways, these balloons would be blown to smithereens, and there'd only be small, tiny little pieces of it. And I doubt highly if they're ever going to be found. Those three, anyways. I guess the best chance I would have guessed for a very short period of time would have been over Lake Huron, but they would have had to jump on those pretty quickly before they sank or they washed away, etc. So it's still very possible. I really believe that we're not going to find any of those at all, any pieces at all. So because two of them were over heavily forested areas of one was off the coast of Alaska, right? And that landed in some kind of a very remote area. It may have fallen onto ice, but even that it would be questionable. And the other one was in northern woods, a northern forest in Canada. So I doubt highly you're gonna ever find that one for sure. So, anyways, but there is one more thing I want to mention. There is actually, if you remember, there was a comment made, and it may have been made by a couple pilots, but definitely one pilot I remember, was that apparently one of the objects, one or more of the objects, was actually affecting their sensors, which means that something was probably more than a hobbyist balloon. Okay, now I only heard this once or twice. I didn't hear any follow-up on it. Nobody really has asked that question except for me. I'm sure other people have, but I'm just saying I'm asking you guys the question out there. Whatever happened to that? Because to me that's a little bit of a smoking gun. It really is a little bit of a smoking gun. Because anything that would be affecting those jets would be pretty powerful business. Because those are all hardened. Those jets are all been hardened, and they are not supposed to be affected in any way by outside influence, like some type of special radar or some type of microwave activity. So that's my 10%. Remember I said 90% balloons, 10% maybe still a real UFO. And I think that's my 10%. So we'll see how this all develops. So what do you think? Send me your comments. If you want to send me a private email, it's at dimensionalwalking@gmail.com. Come and see our other 200 plus videos we've done on other things besides UFOs and aliens. We do a lot of Sasquatch research. We do paranormal. We do ghosts. We do almost anything that has to do with the paranormal and strangeness, high strangeness. So, with that said, happy trails until we meet again. We'll see ya. Bye-bye.